So to begin this one, I'm going to give you those rules of thumb I use for economic occupancy drop for my worst case scenario 2008 and 9. Here are some numbers from the United States Census Bureau. And so for multifamily, the cumulative rent decline from a recession, and this is 2008, was 7.9% for multifamily. And you look at that compared to the other ones, industrial 7.5, office 17.7, retail 14.1. This was the least affected. So for my rule of thumb numbers, and also before I get into that, check out this increase though. Rent growth past prior peak. Look at the rent growth versus the other industries. 7.8% for industrial, office 5%, retail 4.5%. I mean the company is based off of rents, but still 25% versus 8%. A huge spread, and it really just shows how good the multifamily industry is. And so blank here. So for A-class properties, economic occupancy drop 2008 and 9 was around 6%. B dropped around 8%, and C dropped around 12%. And so you'll use those numbers to kind of account for how much income loss you're going to get. And so that's what I do in this side of my deal analysis, is I find that through my break-even point, and then I take my current break-even point off my actual numbers, and then I'll subtract these numbers based off of the property. And then I say, what is the minimum break-even point that the property could withstand? And after using those numbers, those 2008 numbers, could it hang on? Could it still cash flow in a 2008 environment? And so that's why this deal stress test is one of the most, if not the most important underwriting metric you can do. I mean, it's the reason why I put it right next to the core numbers of the deal. With that, let's get into some deals. I found this one just to underwrite kind of for fun, because it's right next to the water. 12 units, 3.2 million, old building. But that is just awesome, having the water that close. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to check out the location, and I'm going to use that street view. That was kind of cool in the last one. Apartments. Is that Bayshore? Yeah. Or Madeira, Beach. There it is. So right here, I can get this street view, and it's almost like walking the deal. So check this out. Street view. And so you just click on the location, a little guide right here. But you can like drive the property. I mean, it's awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's nice. That building just, it's old, but I mean, this location. Some little bit rundown houses, but next to the water, it's like people. Huh. So first impression, it's actually a little bit more rundown of a location than I imagined. But as far as like renting that place out, I mean, all you really have to do for marketing is put a picture of the water right there and then put it online, and then it's kind of like a huge draw. So this, where are we converted? So kind of the other side, this is where we're at right here. There's a property, the other side of the street, or the beach there. A little bit nicer quality. Let's jump back. But these are nice, yeah. Check out the shops. Cool. Huh. Okay. Expected rent. See, you'll see all these different terms: market rents, expected rents, current rents, and a lot of the brokers are using them interchangeably, and so sometimes it's kind of like, well, what do you mean? Like, I guess what they mean by expected rents. It sounds like kind of like a pro forma. So this is, I mean, this is probably his pro forma, what the rent increases would be. So what that's telling me that's actually somewhat cheap rents for being on the water. So maybe the location. Okay. You can go with that. Underwriting. $3.2 million. So 800,000 would be 25% plus 90, so 890 down. 24, 2.4 million dollar debt amount. That's just 25%, 75%, and then plus 3% in closing costs for your down payment there. 2.4 million is about you're going to finance. Plug in a rate factor 0.039539, and that's going to give me a principal and interest payment of 3.5%. So 129. When they don't list the expenses or the numbers, a lot of times they're super low returns. But let's just put some interest only in here as well. 2.4 million. Whatever. 3.5% interest only. 86,000. Now his deal is going to be like 160,000. Point 6. Ooh. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So 160,000. If you were running this deal at 40% expenses, you'd have 60% left. So 60% of your gross would be your net income, which would be $96,000. So, I mean, it's a negative. You'd have to feed the deal. Yeah, I mean, you have to feed the deal if you had any type of interest only, or excuse me, principal and interest. If you got the interest only, you'd be making $10,000. Let's do it for fun, but 10 divided by 890. 1% return. If you got interest only. And then you'll say like, oh, well, it's such a good location. It's going to appreciate so much. But this deal's like, what is this? Well, I mean, give this thing the best case scenario. Say it was like 120,000 NOI. Divide that by 3.2 million. Dude, I mean, it's a 3.7 cap. That is like ridiculously low. Even if it's on the water, it's just kind of like, I'm trying to make sense of it, but I mean, it's like, say you raise rents 200 times 12 units times 12 months divided by 4.5 cap, you make 640,000. So your only play here is if you could go in here and there was potential for raising the rents $200 or more. And if you could do that, and then it'd just be kind of like a flip deal, and then exit at like a 4.5 cap, maybe. But it's just a different strategy, much higher risk strategy than just buying a deal that cash flows day one without you doing anything. Ideally, you want to get something like that cash flows, because that's your security, that's your safety. And then also have a little bit what's called meat on the bones. So it's like there's still some more room that you can do some rehabs and raise the rent. So you have kind of both. You have the yield play, you have the safety in that, and then you also have some upside with raising the rents.